Well, you've been on the road now supporting your amazing second album, but it's been a long tour.
You know, I don't mind it though. It's cool. I'm gonna go. My birthday's at the end of the month.
Great.
So after the tour, I'm gonna go spend some time like in Italy.
Yeah.
Alone for a while. But it's such a weird time for me because like I'm turning 24, and I was 19 when I wrote Badlands, and it's like I blinked, and it just feels so insane. And that, it's really interesting too, this record, because it's gonna come right after my 24th birthday. This is such a weird thing for me. It's so complicated because there's so much to unpack here. But
Yeah.
The first thing is that like it's the most raw thing I've ever made, and not just because of the content, because I make concept albums. So I have these comic book universes where I'm playing a fantasy character, and
And each song is protected by the next. It all makes sense.
yeah, there's like a 5-part video series, and I'm not really myself. I'm playing someone else, and now this song it's not attached to an album. It's a standalone record. And that's the interesting thing about music, is I was supposed to be taking a break, and then I wrote this song, and it's like music doesn't care about your schedule.
Get
It's
it
like if
out.
the timing's right, you need to
Set it free.
need to put it out. And so here I have this record where it's like it's just me, no wig, no colorful hair, no character, and it's about my life and about my relationship that the world has watched so closely and so vehemently, like in the past year and a half. My fans are really gonna be like, whoa. All the video content, everything behind the song is like me. It's just me. It's like me in a white t-shirt with like normal hair, just like singing to the camera. No character, no cinematography, no gunfight, car explosion, stuff like I usually do.
Is this the first song you've ever written as Ashley and not as Halsey?
I think that's the point. I think that's what I'm kind of getting at, is that it's like it's not protected by some character or some subplot or some, you know what I mean? It's like, this is really me talking about my life and letting people. It kind of gave me like an existential crisis as an artist a little bit, because for so long I've prided myself on being an artist who's authentic and writes about her life and all that stuff. And then when I made this, and I felt just how bad it hurt.
So you wondered whether or not you'd even gone there before.
Yeah. And it made me question myself as an artist and be like, have you even been accessing this part of you?
Here's the good news. Every artist I've ever interviewed in my life who's gone there has asked that question of themselves.
Yeah.
If you'd gone there right at the very start, who knows where you'd be now? I mean, you've got to warm up. You've got to live a life. You were 19 when you started.
I know.
You're 24. You're still incredibly young, and you've lived a life. I mean, debut album, hard work, check.
Yeah.
Second album, ambitious concept record, check.
Yeah.
Hustle for your success, put in the graft, check. Public relationship, big check.
Yeah.
Big check.
Yeah.
I mean, these are all things you've achieved, and so it makes sense that you're going to go ahead and you're going to write this song now, because what would you have said before? How would you have even gotten this out
No one
of
would
your
have
system?
cared.
Right.
That's the most important thing, is that now they care. And they want to know what's behind the curtain.
Nah, you are different, man. And I've said
But-
this so many times. No one, I mean, here's a compliment for you. I mean, irrespective of the writing, no one, when it comes to stepping on the microphone to do a take on any song, in any situation,
Yeah.
and I've talked to Benny about this. I've talked to P&D about this.
Yeah.
I've talked to anyone who's actually had the guts to step in the room with you. When you step in there and take your first statement of your verse, it's over for anybody else in the room. And Benny's like, oh, she's the greatest. The first 3 seconds of any take she does, the tone she has, it's just forget about it. It's done.
I think it's because I don't even put my mouth in front of a microphone until I'm absolutely positive about what I want to say and how I
How do
want
you
to
even
say
get
it.
there? How do you even get there? Because a lot of people have to warm up to that.
I'm just like, I think a lot of people, there's 2 ways of looking at it. Some people are comfortable like improvising in the room. That means one of 2 things, and they're opposite things. It either means that they're so comfortable with whatever they're making or whatever they're saying, they don't care if someone hears them mess up.
Yeah.
Or it means they're so uncomfortable that they need to improv in the room to wait for the person to say, that's good, that's good.
Yeah, they're looking for feedback.
So it's one or the other. It's either that they don't need any validation, or
Yeah.
they so desperately need validation.
Yeah.
And I'm like a completely different type of writer, where when I first started writing and people weren't familiar with my work, or it was like my workflow, or I hadn't found the people I'm comfortable with yet, when I first started writing, I would sit in the room and like be in my phone, and I could feel like producers being like, is she even gonna do anything? And then I'd leave the room to go smoke a cigarette or do whatever, and they'd be like, oh, is she even gonna do anything?
They're in the wrong game. The
And then-
patience is the whole point.
30 minutes later, I'd come back in and I'd sing the whole song, top to bottom, and they'd be like, when did you write that? And I'd be like, when you were wondering if I was ever gonna do anything. And then I come back in and I cut it. And so I think what it is I mean, I think I'm a perfectionist in that way, where I don't get in front of a mic unless I know what I'm gonna say. I only have like 3 demos the world's never heard.
Really?
Most artists have like 100. And that's because I don't even start a song unless I know I'm gonna finish it.
Wow, interesting.
So like I've only ever made basically the songs that you've heard.
No vault.
No, not really.
No vault.
Because I know what I want to make before I make it, and I kind of reserve. I reserve that instead of trying like Frankenstein stuff. Look, my first message is like, you're not bound to anything besides yourself. I've said that. I said that in 2015 when I put out Hurricane. I said I don't belong to no city, don't belong to no man. That's always been my MO. Is you don't belong to anybody but yourself. And then of course, situations like this complicate things when you love someone almost as much as you love yourself, maybe more.
Yeah. Well, that's what's interesting about that line, because when I first heard it, I felt like you were talking to him as much as to yourself.
Yeah.
And in the past, it's like, oh, you're talking to yourself, like stand up for who you are and don't necessarily put your self-esteem in the hands of any situation that's not in your control.
Yeah.
This time it was almost like a gift as well. It was like you were saying, it's not about you belonging to me or me belonging to you. That's what I took from it.
100%. 100%. And there's like a double entendre in that as well, because I think the most important message for me with this is like, you don't belong to anybody but yourself, and you're not bound to anything that doesn't serve you. But the second message that I want to just remind everyone through this process is like, we're people. You know what I mean? Like, you text your best friend and you're like, I'm done with them, I'm never talking to them ever again, and then your dumb sorry ass is back hanging out with them again next week too, and if you're doing it, so am I. Everyone's like, people don't change, people don't whatever, and that's not true. That's not true. And I think that it's especially convoluted when your image of yourself or your perception of yourself, like, look, basic sociology is looking glass self. We define ourselves based on how the people around us see us. That's how we define ourselves. So now imagine if the people around you isn't 10 people, it's 10 million.
Yeah, and it's through the eyes and lens of social media, which is immediate and direct.
And the news is fit to print.
Yeah.
The news is fit to print. So now you have this like warped idea of who you are because of 10 million strangers who are trying to tell you who they think you are. And it's like that completely, it's like there's an exception there. That's an exception. Like, my development of my identity and my self-perception and my higher self and self-awareness, like, I kind of get a pass to experiment with it and to mess up and to figure, and so does he and so does everyone else. And you're being fed self-reflection from so many different uninformed sources. I think it's the only thing that I've experienced in the past couple of years that made me put my phone down and say, I don't care what they think. And you know me.
Yeah.
You've known me for a while now, and I've beaten myself up about what people think about me and about what people think about. And so in a weird way, like, this relationship has been one of the most liberating thing that's ever happened to me, because it made me put my phone down and go, I don't care what you think, because this makes me happy.